People really didn't trust me. See where that question was going. I don't really feel like it's my decision whether I have rom-com energy. I'm Alexander from the Traitors, and I'm getting up close with Cosmo UK. I applied to the Traitors because a friend put me up for it. All the best things start with friends putting you up for something. I wanted to do it because it was something new, and I love new experiences. I said when I went into the castle that I recently went to northern Russia and did 15 of London's disused tube stations, and I just love doing stuff that's different. And I thought this is the sort of the biggest different thing I could do, sort of a psychological battle with other contestants in a castle and playing those missions, and I thought that would be enormous fun. I also really liked how in years gone by they've seemed to have had a real closeness to the group, and they've made kind of really close connections, and I thought that camaraderie would also be a really nice experience if I could get it. This says, a moment for Alexander, the People's Princess. I assume it means like a moment to reflect about Alexander rather than she's offering me a moment, but I would take either. I also like that in this one there's a caption of where I'm singing and it says deep voice, thanks. I think Leanne and I had, the weird thing is we were actually very close, which seems surprising, but it's almost like that sort of brother-sister dynamic where we can't make it quite work, and we can't leave each other quite alone either. It was a tricky kind of balance, or maybe sort of a bad relationship, I don't know. So I think we were always a little bit suspicious of each other. I expect she was suspicious of me because I joined the game a bit later, and I was the only surviving member of the cages and also the deathmatch. And to be honest, I might have banished myself if I'd been the last person from that. So I kind of get it. This one says, Alexander has such bumbling British love interest in a rom-com energy. Hashtag the Traitors. I don't think it's, I don't really feel like it's my decision whether I have rom-com energy. I suppose like I'll leave that for others to judge. I mean, it's definitely silly, isn't it? I'm sure I was given a list of people's names at the beginning, so I should know how to spell them. I should probably have spent more time with it. I am still a little embarrassed that I managed to get somebody's name wrong. You know, one of these things you think only happens to other people, not to you. Kind of like that. But actually, it's like a lot of things, as long as you held your hands up, I feel like Mina and I were pretty close in there, and we're certainly close afterwards, so I think I get away with it. To be honest, if people misspell people's names, we don't really pick it up again. It's not really part of the conversation. The conversation is more like who got voted out, who's going to get voted out tomorrow, who do you suspect, and that's 80% of the conversation that happens in there. There's thousands of hours of footage, and I guess they can only put 12 hours on screen, so you don't get to see all of that, but it's all about suspicion and trying to build trust and break trust, so no, not so much. I did not know Linda wrote the deathmatch questions on the artwork. I wish I'd seen it, and I wish I could say, yeah, I saw that and I found it. Nobody saw it in the bar. The reason is, and I remember when we found out, I thought, well, that's not going to help anybody anyway, is it? They wrote the 4 names. That Z, if only we'd known, it would have been the best piece of evidence in the game. Fozia and Fozia. What I mean there is the round table and the deathmatch painting, that's what I meant. I was a bit surprised by the group's reaction after the deathmatch, because I kind of came out the coffin and I thought this is kind of a bit silly, a bit fun. Everyone's just dragged me in on a boat to shore, and I'll just pop up and I'll explain to them what happened, and everyone will find it a bit funny. And the reaction of the group was nothing like that. It was actually really serious. It was like sort of walking into a sort of milder version of the Spanish Inquisition. And people really didn't trust me, and I think probably because Anna had come out her coffin in a very different way. And I saw her, I only saw it on TV, but her hand was kind of shaking. And so I think there was just such a gap between that. And I think if anything saved me there, it was probably Leon getting out the coffin next, who decided to do this wonderful kind of operatic performance of like, guys, there are people here you cannot trust. And everyone was like, oh, yes. And I thought Leon, if anything, kind of saved me. I love Leon. He does this sort of big-hearted sort of stuff, but that put him under a bit of suspicion as well. So thanks. Cameron from Cam Ruined says, I need my king and queen on Race Across the World together. I'm so serious. I mean, you're absolutely right to say Frankie as a queen. That's true. I don't know what comes next. I mean, I loved doing the Traitors. It was enormous fun. Some of it was really fun at the time, just like the Doll's House was just fun. And then some of it was fun, like climbing a mountain is fun. It was kind of pretty tough at the time, and you look back and you're like, that was really fun. I would love to do stuff like that. Let's see what the future brings. I think Frankie would be brilliant at bringing people in and getting them to do the things she needs them to do. She has this really warm personality and really brings people in. And I think she'd be excellent at that. I think I'd be on the timetables. I think people always come into the game and they say, my experience as X really helped me or will really help me. And I think often it's sort of, I think it's always really hard to know what you will be needed in the game, actually. The most single important thing is to be able to adapt. If you have a strategy, it'll last for a few hours, and then something else new will happen and the strategy won't work anymore, and you have to be able to adapt. And I think, the people you saw who did that best were sort of the Mina and Charlotte, who did that really well. They just kept on adapting. So if there's anything I pull from my diplomatic career, it's the ability to sort of build relationships with different people, the teamwork required, and maybe that ability to adapt, but I wouldn't overplay it. I would say everybody has to figure it out when they're in there, and everybody's got skills they bring in. I haven't played badminton since the show. It's just been too hard for me. No, that's a joke. I just haven't had the opportunity. But if I do play badminton, I will stay well away from courts near hedges. I did not know that would turn into a viral meme. I might have been more careful about my shot selection if I had. I thought it was really funny at the time, though. Just nothing to do with viral memes. I found that really funny. And I was properly in the bush. And if you look at the final next to the fire pit where all of us standing there, you can actually see just to the left there is still a large gap in the hedge. Maybe I'll get a sort of plaque or something, Alexander's hedge or something. Please, Claudia. Anyway, I had no idea, but it was because the funny thing in the game is that you have hours and hours and hours of the game, and so one small moment like that just kind of goes into the background, and then you see it on national TV. So who do I need to speak to about getting Alexander from the Traitors cast in Paddington 4? Question is, who do I need to speak to about getting myself cast in Paddington 4? Just let me know. The gasp throughout the nation when Joe called Alexander's tiredness an act after he carried most of the stuff. I did carry quite a lot of the stuff. That wasn't actually a lie. I wasn't particularly game playing then. I was actually really tired. I was like lying on the grass. And because Freddie said he wanted the shield at the start, I was just like, well, that's the easiest thing to think of. Freddie made a big pitch for it. Freddie can have it. But Joe would have been an equally worthy recipient of the shield if he'd made a pitch for it. Which Traitors banishment shocked me the most? It's hard to pick. I was really surprised at Tyler going, because that to me came out of nowhere. He was sort of completely safe, had a really sort of strong group of friends in there, and then in the afternoon the sort of story picked up about him, and then he was gone by the round table. Dan surprised me again. That sort of picked up pace super quickly just because he didn't tell people about who he marked in the marking game, which I think was completely reasonable of him, but the narrative just developed that if he didn't tell people, he must be a traitor. And I was also a bit shocked Mina went. She played a brilliant game, and the thing that distinguished her, that made us suspicious about her, is that there was really no trail that led to her. She was just sort of completely had a clean slate, and we couldn't figure out why. And we figured must be because she's pulling the strings, but she played so well. I'm sad she didn't win. A bit. Yes, I actually asked for some paper and a pen as I went through the series, and it took quite a while to get it. I had to all my diplomatic tact to get the cast to give me a paper and pen so I could make my theories. Maybe it would have been better if they hadn't. My main theory that I developed coming back after a hard day's work in the castle was to put the evidence together for Leanne, and I was like, got it. This is the evidence. Here's the line between it. I'm a genius. I don't know. If you've watched it, you'll know I wasn't a genius. it's really hard to keep in mind clues because you've got so many things happening all the time. You've got the mission, you've got, all the other players telling you their theories, you telling them yours. And the funny thing is, you might think watching on TV, last night you were clear on Linda, why has her name not come up the next day? And it's just because there's so much information and so little sort of insight to find the key bits of information that the story can move on really, really quickly. When you watch it back, you think, why didn't we just hold on to that one thing that mattered? Linda, Jake seeing Linda turn her head, or, when I came in, saw her crying about Livy in the breakfast room, and I thought, come on. And then the next night I voted for somebody else. So, you wonder why you don't hold on to the thing that you're so sure about. And it's just because the game moves so quickly, but maybe there's a lesson for next year's contestants. We didn't spend that much time chatting about our actual lives. I remember when I came into the castle, Leon and I, actually, we got on really well, and we kept saying, look, let's find some time to actually chat, because we'd like to hear about each other's actual lives outside the game. And it took a couple of days for us to find even 10 minutes to do it, because everybody kind of wants your time to tell you their theory and move the blame elsewhere, and you want everybody's time to tell them your theory and move the blame elsewhere. So, it's actually really hard to get that kind of time to get to know people properly, and it's really only since the show finished that we spent time actually getting to know each other, and that's been a real joy, actually. That's been great. Everybody is a lovely person. This one says, we are all in agreement that Alexander should host Traitors Uncloaked next year, or at the very least get his own analysis segment. I like the idea that I'd get something like my own swingometer for election night or something that I could do on that. Ed Gamble is an outstandingly good host and a very nice man. I met him on Friday, so I have no designs on his job. He is outstanding at it, but I will happily present a swingometer. Yeah, I think watching it looked at times like, I maybe didn't have that many people in my group, but actually my group kind of changed. I was actually really close to Fosia when we came in. We were like this, and we were sort of, because we came from the trains, we sort of would have run the game together, and then obviously she left in the death match, which was a big loss for me. I also think she's hilarious. I think she's really, really funny. So that was a loss on a personal level. And then Dan, when I came down from the cages, he kind of took me aside and he was like, Alexander, you and me, we play this logically. Let's do it. And we were really close. And then, of course, Dan went. I played a bit of a part in that, but that was a big loss to me as well. And then I became very close to Frankie and Charlotte, and Freddie and Leon maybe. That was another group. And then that got whittled down because Charlotte and Freddie became traitors, and I didn't necessarily know that at the time. I kind of saw Charlotte, I saw Freddie less as a traitor. But that group changed. So it's kind of back to my point about adapting. Your strategy, your friendship group, or your sort of allies last often about 24 hours. This one says, I watch the Traitors for the plot. The plot? Me. Surprising. Thank you for the support. It has been absolutely brilliant. It's just made this whole thing so much more fun, so much more enjoyable. I am enormously grateful for all the support. Thank you. And thank you for those. I'm sorry I can't reply to all of them. I am single, yes. No further comment. I don't know what my plans are post-Traitors. I have been in a whirlwind for the last 72 hours. I did watch the final a little bit earlier, and then did Uncloaked, and then went for a party on Friday. Then we did press over the weekend, and I'm still doing press. So that is a brilliant thing. I'm loving doing it. It's also quite a lot. I haven't really thought about the future yet. The party on Friday was great. There was this really funny thing that happened. No. No, I'm going to keep everybody's details secret, but it was a lot of fun. We went to the BBC, who are great hosts, and then we went out into Soho. It was a lot of fun. We were doing little social media bits and pieces, which is not my sort of, it's not something I've got experience of, but I really found that fun to have those interactions with all the other cast members, just doing really silly things. That was a lot of fun. There was, for me, maybe unsurprisingly, doing Spurba Wurwur with the group. It's great. I mean, I think anybody getting another go at this would be extraordinarily lucky. It is so much fun, but let's see what they do. I have no plans, and I don't know what comes next. This one says, Alexander ... the man you are, leaning against the fireplace, sipping champagne, icon. Well, thank you very much, Molly. That's very kind. I don't actually spend that much time leaning against the fireplace, drinking champagne, but I will try and make it more of a habit in future. Oh, I loved filming the fireplace scenes. I just kept asking them to do more of them, because different types, because I thought it was really fun. I saw it as a bit silly and a bit ridiculous, and I think they saw it as a bit silly and a bit ridiculous as well, so I think we were kind of on the same page. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. I think icon is probably too high a word. Linda is an icon. That's the definition of icon, but I can only aspire and work to it. Linda, let me know how. I'm enormously grateful to anybody supporting MenCap or similar charities. It's one of a number of great causes, I know. It's something that's incredibly important to me personally. I know from personal experience how difficult it can be having a special needs child, or being a sibling to a special needs child, or lots of other relationships. Often it means that people spend all their energy doing that and caring, and they're not easily able to have a voice and to speak up about it. And if I can play a role in speaking out about it, it would be a real honour. I'd be very privileged. So I'm still working out how I might do that. I think it'll take a little time, but it's something that's enormously important to me. To anybody who is supporting that cause on the back of this, I would just say a huge thank you. It's enormously important, and thanks. Thanks for watching.